We're
of
live.
The Godfather. Oh, we are live.
Hey.
Yeah, we're trying to explain to everyone why The Godfather.
We'll do it live. We'll do it
It's
live.
such a good movie, and if you haven't seen the Barbie movie, that won't make as much sense as us. Oh my god, I poked my eye right before I hit the start button. Now it's just tearing up. Hey everyone, how's it going?
It's going okay. How's it going with you?
Oh, I poked myself in the eye, so it's gonna be going better. Oh man, Brittany's in the chat. She's been going through all of the Horizon games, the Horizon Forbidden West, and then
nice.
Forbidden West, right? Yeah, and Burning Shores DLC, and now she's trying to platinum it, which is awesome. I feel like I never platinumed the first game just because you had to do all those trials, and I was just like, nope, this ain't happening.
Yep.
It ain't happening. So, if you want to see a very entertaining stream, go check out twitch.tv/vocal tombs. Oh, I'm sorry, Brittany. I keep on doing that. Tombs. Vocal tombs.
Wait, I thought it was tomes too. Okay,
No, it's tombs. Like the book.
This is education.
Like the book.
Educational
Tombs.
lesson.
Just like Eugene Toombs in X-Files.
Yes. Not tomes. Tombs. Not
that's
tomes. Now I'm confused.
So not tombs with a B, like an underground graveyard thing.
But tomes? Tomes, like the book. Oh my god, my brain is hurting. Anyway, we're not talking about either of these things because we're going to be talking about Strange New World. The second season just ended not too long ago. Last week. Was it last week?
Last week.
Last Thursday.
We were only like 4 days off from that phenomenal season finale.
It's crazy because
it ended early too because they pushed the was it episode 7? They pushed that up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Surprise everybody at Comic-Con.
Yeah, because they had to, gain some love from the fans because they canceled Prodigy without anything, and then they took it off all the streaming services. That's my cynical take on why they released it early, and I'm pretty sure
to try to make everybody happy again.
That's a very good theory because they canceled Prodigy for no reason.
And then everyone got upset, and they were like, "Oh, we thought no one watched this, even though it was the highest rated Star Trek show at the time, and it's one of the highest requested streaming shows, which is
because who streams more than kids, right?
Yeah.
Kids are always on their TV loading something up,
and it's not just kids. Like the adults love that show. Like I love.
It was great. No, it was absolutely great. My kids have gone back to it over and over again.
Yeah.
It's a way you had generations of kids who would have been pre-installed for going forward into future Star Trek, more adult ones later on. That show brought kids to the table.
Okay, quick story.
Quick
story. Was watching the musical episode with my kids.
What?
And my daughter.
Watching a musical?
I know, right? My daughter. She's 9. She yells. We're watching it. She just looks at me and she goes, "Where's Janeway?" Right? Because she's been watching Prodigy with me, and that's her exposure to Star Trek. She's like, "Why is Janeway not in this?"
I understand.
Right?
My eldest also loves Prodigy, and she's like, "We need more Janeway in everything." I was like, "You're right.
Mm-hmm.
We do need Janeway in everything." And we were gonna start.
One smart kid you got there.
We were gonna start we started Voyager, but then she saw the musical episode and was like, "I want to see this first." I was like, "Okay, we're gonna watch Strange New Worlds," even though some of the episodes you might be scared of.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Paramount, we're recording this during the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strike, and we just want to let everyone know that we support everyone striking right now because you got to pay people what they're worth, and you gotta give them the respect that they deserve. Also, AI is scary, and stop trying to replace people with AI. No.
AI is supposed to be running the factories while we're out writing and doing poetry.
But isn't
not the opposite?
It's gonna rise up against us.
AI is a good tool to utilize, but it shouldn't replace someone. It should help you, right? Don't replace. Help.
It should not replace.
It should help you plagiarize your schoolwork.
Yes. Do it for the students.
Get you through high school so you can get on with the rest of your life. Yeah. That's fine. But
But this podcast fully supports the strike, and we hope that the studios listen to these people because what they're asking for is not much, and it's just healthy. What people don't realize is that actors don't make as much money as these multi-millionaire, like the starring actors. Most actors don't make enough to to get health care in the States, which is
Mhm.
crazy.
Less
Yeah.
And
less than $26,000 a year.
yeah,
That's
so
like they're just trying to hit the mark of like, $26,000 a year just to qualify for healthcare in the States.
yeah,
And they can't do that.
and yet the CEOs keep on getting bumps in their raises, right?
Mm-hmm.
It makes
50
no
million
sense.
bonus.
Makes no sense. It
I
makes
know.
no sense. And then
No,
they're just cutting like shows and killing all those residuals to the writers, right? For no
Mhm.
reasons. Like Prodigy,
Yeah.
what? Those people don't get anything at the current moment because it's not airing anywhere. That sucks.
I just saw an article about how the creator of Suits, I think one of the writers on Suits and that, there's been about 5 billion minutes of Suits streamed on Netflix and that, and the grand total the writer got for it was about $6,000.
That's crazy. Like it is currently the highest streamed show
Yes.
because it just went on Netflix in the States, I believe. We have it up in
Yeah.
Canada for a while. So I saw the bump just recently, and it's crazy how much people are watching Suits. Did you know there was there was a sequel series to that? Based on
Yes, with Jessica Pearson.
yeah, called Pearson.
Yeah,
I never knew it was released. I need to find it. Maybe it's on a streaming service. Who knows?
I think it hit a bump with the pandemic and that because basically it got its first season out and then I think it just kind of went away with after everything went into shutdown.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're talking about Strange New Worlds, season 2, which started on June 15th and then ended last week, August. I don't know, 8 was that 8? I feel like 8.
10.
Yeah, let's go with that. I should have checked it up earlier, but I didn't. But before we do that, again, we support the writers and all the actors striking, but also. We do this thing at the beginning of every episode where I get to find out what people are liking right now, what their yums are. What are you really enjoying right now? Hawk, do you have a yum or should I go to shows?
Go to shows. I haven't. Oh, I got a yum actually.
Okay, Hawk.
Okay, season 3 of Warrior. Next week will be the finale,
And that's when I'm going to watch the season because I have not
good.
seen it this season yet.
So the last 2 episodes have really set it up in that because I was wondering because it's a little bit different. Some of the characters from last season did not return, but that's okay. They had a kind of a slow build on the season in that the last 2 episodes really kick things into high gear, and I don't know what's going to happen with the finale. I'm thinking a major character death is coming. So
no,
no spoilers, but
they
prepare yourself. Please.
I remember each season they have one where they really pull into a different genre, like a western or something. Did they do that this year again? It was usually episode 6. I think it was 6.
Yeah, there was a 6th one. They didn't really lean hard into that, and I don't know if they kind of abandoned that trope and that that thing. But
that was so cool.
It's been a very good season.
I mean, I'll watch anything with them.
Yeah. So, like I said, with next week's the finale, it'll all be out there and that, so it's a good time to catch up on it.
When I watched the Snake Eyes movie, I could not watch it and not love Storm Shadow because of Warrior. And the whole movie I was just like, I'm rooting for Storm Shadow instead of Snake Eyes. I feel like this is the wrong thing to do.
Because we love Andrew Koji.
Exactly. He was amazing in that movie. Yeah. Snake Eyes.
Nice.
All right. Yeah. Shows. What are you yumming on?
Okay. Yeah. So 2 quick ones, I guess. One of them, gaming wise, I'm playing a ton of Pikmin 4. Which came out last month and is a lot of fun. So if you're a Pikmin fan, I recommend picking that up. Get it? Picking that up. Okay.
Hey. Wait. Do I have an applause for you?
Yeah, so it's really good. It's the most refined version of those games, and Nintendo likes to take a particular franchise that they know how to make and try to just make it better. You're not going to get a lot of too much new stuff. There's definitely new stuff in this game, but if you like Pikmin, you'll like this one. And the other thing I just started watching today is I felt like I wanted to watch through the series Andromeda again. So
I
pulled out the DVDs.
I have a hard time watching that purely for Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, and it does bring up some questions about, you know, when you have an actor that's maybe stepping forward with some interesting views in their later years and whatnot. I do enjoy the show. I do enjoy the science fiction. I remember being at Fan Expo a few years back and watching Lexa Doig walk past, and I was like, "It's Andromeda! She's walking past me." So I'm just something fun. I mean, I know there's a zillion things that I need to watch. I need to get caught up on, but sometimes it's nice just to go back to something you haven't seen in a while and rewatch it again. So that's what I'm doing now.
As far as Kevin Sorbo, I wouldn't let him detract you from enjoying it and that, because, you know, it's not like he was out there writing it or anything like that. Sure. You know, he's just a meatbag saying the words and that. So it was a creative endeavor by a lot of different people and that. So
I did enjoy that show quite a bit, and because I love Laura Bertram.
She's awesome in this. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, but it's listening to Kevin Sorbo's voice at times, I'm just like, oh no. I'd rather listen to Xena than
yeah. Definitely.
So you want a remaster of Andromeda with Lucy Lawless as the main character?
Oh yes, I would remaster anything that Kevin Sorbo did with Lucy Lawless. I feel like that would be amazing.
Hercules.
Yeah. Just have I would have her as Hercules and her as Xena. Just makes me happy. just picturing
two Lucy Lawlesses talking to each other.
I met Lexa Doig.
Yeah,
she's very nice. She's a very nice person.
Yeah, she seems cool.
I just met her backstage at Fan Expo, so it was a random like, oh hi, and then like hi. She was like, I probably have better things to do, and I was like, okay. That's how I felt. I was like, she's probably way more. She's too important to be talking to me. Just go.
Sorry, Rami. Sorry.
Just get out of here. You know what I have been rewatching, which I don't feel bad about rewatching, is Warehouse 13, because that show's amazing, and I miss it so much. And
I love that show.
The creative team behind it was saying not too long ago that they're trying to remount it again.
Yeah. What's the who's the lead? Is it Eddie something?
Eddie something. Oh, we are bad fans. Eddie.
Man, I follow him on
everything. Eddie McClintosh. McClintosh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there was a while where he was talking about that too, like trying to push the fans to like, you know, try to get a remake of or a continuation of Warehouse 13.
And then Sci-Fi, is that the station in the States? They said that they were in talks with the creator to redo something or to have something in that world, which is cool because they also had the Eureka world. They were all mixed together. Oh man, to go back into those simpler, happier times.
And a really good cast on this show. Yeah. I got Aaron Ashmore, Saul Rubinek.
Yeah. Oh, Saul Rubinek was so good on that show.
He's amazing on that show.
Oh, and Alpha was also in that universe.
I loved Alpha so much.
What a shame.
Now I want to watch through Warehouse 13 again.
Yeah, you should, man. It's so good.
I know.
Also,
we got to meet the girl at Fan Expo. She was signing autographs. I have her autograph somewhere.
Yeah, I have it somewhere over there too. I don't know where I put it. She was.
I'm also
nice.
A bad fan who does not have Wikipedia open. So
yeah, me either. Another thing I've been watching that I don't know if many people are watching it. At least out of my friends, I don't think anyone has been. But on Apple TV, they have a series called The After Party, and it's such a good show. A lot of people are like, oh, it reminds me of Only Murders in the Building. I was like, I think it's sort of better than that show.
It's a lot better because I love the episodic nature of it and that. Cause a murder happens in the first episode, and then each episode is basically an interrogation with one of the people who was at the scene.
But what's amazing about that is that each episode is a different genre of television, or it flips.
Oh, like a WandaVision kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like that, because they're telling their story from their own perspective and that. So sometimes it's more of a musical perspective, sometimes it's more like noirish. I think the third episode of the new season it like goes to black and white with the
that was the noir.
Yep.
And then the last one was like a steamy, like one of those romance femme fatale type movies. Yeah. It was so good. Oh my god.
Yep. And Tiffany Haddish just slays on that show.
She's so good. I'd only known her from her stand-up, which I enjoyed, but I didn't realize how good she was as an actress. Like
she's very prolific in that. It's like one of my favorite things she does. She does the voice of the AI on Solar Opposites.
Oh
the one
yeah,
that they
she
got
does.
on the show.
That's also back, which is amazing.
There's another show I've been watching too. I forgot to mention. It's also on Apple TV. It's called Foundation. I don't know if you
I
guys
haven't
have seen that
started
one.
it yet.
That is a
No.
good show.
It is impressive. The production quality is really, really good, and it's sort of got me hooked. I guess it's based on Asimov novels.
Yeah. The Foundation
Right?
ones.
Yeah,
I had heard mixed reviews about the first season, so I didn't really pay attention. I kind of gave it a pass. I'm thinking about getting into it.
Brittany really likes that show, so
Yeah.
if that tells you
so.
anything, you should watch
So
it.
they're in the second season now, and they're on like episode 4 or 5 or something of the second season. They're putting them out one at a time. I enjoyed the first season. I read some of those sort of negative reviews saying it wasn't close enough to the books, and they kind of took their creative liberties and stuff. But I still enjoyed it. It still had some unique ideas.
Yeah,
Nice.
like, you know what? If it feels like the books, it's fine with me. Like the Expanse books were not the same as the TV show. They're close, but I think the TV show may have made it better. To be honest,
I agree with. Brittany says that it's because it was slow sci-fi, and that's why it had the mixed reviews. I agree with that 100%. It took a long time to build that world, and I think because it did that, it paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it happens. I mean, like there's occasions where a book is pretty good and that, but a TV show or a movie and that actually might elevate it. I'll give you one example.
The first season of The Witcher.
No, No Country for Old Men.
Good I never read the book. Good
book. Great movie.
Who wrote that? Cormac McCarthy?
Yeah, Cormac McCarthy.
He's an author that people either really like or really dislike.
Oh yeah, if you ever need a bummer, then like read a Cormac McCarthy book. I need to be depressed and really question like life in an existential manner. Yeah, read Cormac McCarthy.
Brittany wrote, "No Country for Old Men is what I want for the U.S." Well done.
Well, we watched Mitch McConnell probably have like a TIA live on television.
Oh my God. And then no one did anything. I don't understand why they just let him stand there. Oh, I felt so bad for him. I felt so bad. Anyway, those are all good things. Oh, also Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing. Probably my game of the year. We'll talk about that when we do game of the year. Unless we do a review of Baldur's Gate 3. It's not out on PS5 yet, and that's next month, September.
Next month, yeah,
early September. So we're gonna wait to do the review until like people on PS5 can also play it as well, because
I'd like at least a week before that. I jump on for any sort of review.
No,
it's not coming out it's not coming out for Xbox until even way later, right?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, they're trying to do for Xbox. They're trying to figure out couch co-op for that game. Okay. So they're not going to release it until they can do that, which I think is a good idea because that game is really good. Would be really good for co-op or couch co-op.
Like the Lego games where you can just sort of split the screen down the middle and run around.
Exactly. The options has a LAN mode shows. So if you have multiple computers in your house that can play that game, you can play that game with people in your house, or you can do the old school thing and lug your PC around and play it with your friends.
But I'm guessing that every computer in your house that's playing it has to have its own copy.
You are correct. You are correct on that.
Otherwise, you get one person on the Steam Deck.
Yeah. Before we begin, old man question: where is the chat window in Twitch?
It's on the right side, man.
On the right side. Okay.
If there's an arrow on the top, that means that you've minimized it. You just gotta.
You have to open the beverage holder on your PC. hit the any key.
The any key.
And then you're good.
Okay.
If you want, I can send it to you as well.
Oh, I got it. Here it is. Cool. Yeah.
I seem to have closed this. Yes. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna get into it. Hawk wants to meme it up with me in the chat. Damn straight he does. Damn straight. And everyone should. We're going to talk about Strange New Worlds Season 2. But before that, Season 1 ended last year. And you know what? I loved it. That's my review of the first season. I think it is a perfect season. It is it might just be edged out by Prodigy as the best first season of Star Trek. But it's damn close. If it was longer, it might have edged Prodigy out. What do you guys think of season 1 of Strange New Worlds? Shows.
Yeah, loved it. And I mean, there was so much hype and anticipation for that season. Everybody was so excited from Discovery season 2 with Captain Pike and the sort of the reimagining of the Enterprise crew with Ethan Peck as Spock, and it was because of the fans and their excitement about that the series was greenlit, and they did not disappoint. They made a Star Trek series that was fun, entertaining to watch, exciting. It was like what old Star Trek was. It was like an episode of the week, and right from the beginning, there's not a single character in that show that I don't enjoy fully. So yes, season 1 was awesome, and I can't wait to get into talking about season 2 with you guys.
Hawk.
Agreed. Season 1 was great, and yeah, for all the reasons Shao said, that returning to that episodic nature, but also like it was a return to exploration.
Yeah.
It like that's what it felt like. Encountering something new, some sort of problem that they by the end they had to figure out. All the characters were perfect for the show. I would. My only problem with the show is the 10-episode run.
Yeah,
basically, it's too short. In that, it's like with the old series and that network and that they always had room to fail. This show, it's like in the streaming format world, and that's why everything seems to be pushing towards these days. It's like the streaming format, 10 to 13 episodes. There's very little room to fail in that.
Yeah, I feel you.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
But the issue I have with the 10 episode format is that they do that because it's a continuous story, right? So anything past that in a shortened window would just feel long. But we're episodic. Every story doesn't connect to the other. It should be longer, right?
Yeah.
The connective tissue doesn't have to be held together that firm in an episodic format. Like, give us at least 12, if not 14.
Yeah.
It's funny because one of the Paramount executives, again, if I had their salary, I would say it right now. One of the Paramount executives was like, "Yeah, I think we should make Strange New Worlds more episodes." I'm like, "Yeah, do it, man.
Yeah,
make it longer. Give these people
more money.
Make it so, as it were." Because like this, the first season really dealt with Pike's. He was processing the news he got at the end of season 2 of Discovery, where he finds out that he's going to go in the beep beep chair, and beep beep, and
the Roadrunner chair,
the beep beep chair, and that obviously that'll hang over a person. Like if you know that you only have a certain number of years left, and then you die because of the you don't die, you're
basically
you're injured because of
the end. It was the end of the life he knew. The end, in anticipating that, and it's like like what kind of what makes you get out of bed in the morning when you know that
exactly. And like that's what the first season dealt with, and it wasn't every episode, but it was enough that it was sprinkled throughout the season, and it felt like it, that he was growing through that pain. Especially during the last couple, we talked about it last year, I think, and if not, go check out Strange New Pod.
We talked about it a lot.
But yeah, this season, like, let's just get into this season. This season was about the Gorn War that is potentially going to happen, and it, fuck. You know what? I'm going to do this at the end when we talk about the full season. Let's just get into the second season. The first episode of season 2 was called The Broken Circle. It premiered on June 15th of this year, 2023. So this,
I was just gonna say I'm gonna make a hypothesis for season 2.
Okay.
and I mean I think they introduced the Gorn thing at the end.
Yes.
Sort of leading into what season 3 is gonna be. But season 2 is very much about Spock. and his discovery of his human side.
We're gonna talk. We'll talk about that at the end.
All that kind of stuff, right?
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Which anyway, that's not that. We'll talk about that at the full season. Season 2 premiere, The Broken Circle. This episode is about a distress call from Lieutenant Noonan Singh, which compels Spock and the crew. With Pike has left the Enterprise to deal with some stuff with Una. So Spock gets this distress call through the ingenious work of Uhura, and him and the crew decide to disobey orders, steal the Enterprise and his crew, and do this rescue
they're gonna
mission.
Star Trek 3 this one.
Yeah,
steal the Enterprise.
Yeah. So, what worked with this episode? What didn't? Let's start with what worked. What do you like about this episode, Hawk? I meant to go to shows, but I'm gonna go to Hawk anyway.
Okay, for this episode, what worked? I liked the Spock Home Alone. I when I first saw this, I compared it to Adventures in Babysitting, where the parents are away.
Yep.
Pike and Una, the kids are left there. They find out something's wrong. They got to take the car into the city. I enjoyed all that aspect. I enjoyed the little kind of pieces here and there, like Uhura picking up on a message a lot of other communications officers would have missed. The fact that they trust Leon's instincts enough to actually do this, even though they're told don't. But they know Leon, and she sent out a message that said Federation endangering, like, crisis, need help.
Yeah.
And they trusted her enough to do that. Parts that didn't work for me in this episode, it had to do with Mbenga and Chapel and that really awkward, weird fight scene in that with the green, what everybody started calling the super soldier serum when they saw it. That felt weird and off, and I didn't know exactly what they were trying to reference with it and that.
They were referencing Captain America.
Yeah. I didn't know where it was going to go, but it went into like a kind of a weird, silly thing. But the rest of the episode I thought was actually pretty good. Not as good as like season 1 premiere episode, which is still like probably one of the best Trek episodes I've seen. But a lot of it worked for me. I enjoyed the episode.
Yeah, like season 1, episode 1, Strange New Worlds, might be the best premiere of a Star Trek show. So it's hard to sort of compare it to that, but I think we should, because we are comparing seasons. Or not really comparing seasons, but it is the second season. Sorry.
Yeah.
Shows, what worked in this episode for you?
Yeah, just to sort of build on what Hawk was saying, I like the sequence where Spock was drinking with the Klingons. I thought that was cool.
Wine.
Yeah, like going, just the camaraderie between those crew members. What didn't work for me was the whole stealing of the Enterprise thing. I thought that could have been written in a different way. It just felt like that's a massive solution for that particular problem, like going after a housefly with a shotgun. I don't know. It just, as I was watching, I was going, "There's how is he not going to get in trouble for this? Oh, you saved the Federation, so it's perfectly fine to steal a starship as long as you save the Federation." Right. So I kind of struggled with that a little bit.
The Enterprise always gets stolen, though. That's the thing.
I know they have to change the locks on that thing.
They really do.
But it's their locks. They know how to steal.
They need a better club, right?
Exactly. But yeah, I don't think it was nearly as strong an opener as the first season as well. So I'm going to go with that as well.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
But at the same time, still a fun episode. It introduced us to Pelia.
Yep. Yeah. That was
Carol Kane.
That was my thing I was gonna bring up too. Yeah. Like Hawk said.
That's good segue.
No, I was gonna say, like Hawk said, Pelia was a great addition to the crew. Because Hammer died at season 9 of the first season, we needed an engineer, and they hadn't picked one yet. And she was just doing the repairs. She was overseeing the repairs of the Enterprise and refits and all this other stuff. And what else worked for this episode? I like Spock in this episode. I think he was very good. I really like Ethan Peck in general as Spock. He's very good. And when he was in the captain's chair and he was like, "Go fast now," I was like, that's hilarious. I love that.
Go fast now. I love it.
The things I'm sad we didn't get transporter chief Jay? Was it not Jay?
Kyle.
Kyle. He's not back this whole season, so it was sort of sad not seeing him at all.
Yeah.
But we got to meet transporter Chief Jay, which was cool. They're amazing. I'm trying to think what else was good.
Why did they get rid of? Why did Kyle get reassigned?
No idea. They
Okay.
didn't even mention it. Kyle or who did I say the new computer? Jay. Yeah, like we hardly got to meet Jay this season.
But Transporter Chief Kyle was like a TOS staple, right?
Was he?
I thought Kyle was on the TOS.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know about that.
We have to check that out.
Yeah.
Interesting. Something to look.
Okay, you guys keep talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah, do it.
'Kay.
Other than that, like everyone said, I think the super soldier serum was weird and the sequence wasn't very good. I don't think the fight was very good.
No. No.
Like when you do stuff in slow motion, it should be really good. And they did it in slow motion and it was not very good. Which is unfortunate because I really like Jess Bush and I like Babs Olusamokin as Nurse Chapel and Dr. Mabenga.
They're great.
They're
great.
Their chemistry
Yeah,
together was so good in this episode.
I know.
That I was shipping them a lot, which would be inappropriate because they work together right beside each other in the medical bay,
But
which could turn into sexy fun, I guess.
Okay, breaking news.
Yep.
I was correct. So according to Memory Alpha, there was a character named Chief Kyle on the Shenzhou in Discovery. There was also the Transporter Chief Kyle from Strange New Worlds in 2259. And then it says in 2267, Kyle has become a full Starfleet officer and as a lieutenant served under Captain James T. Kirk.
Maybe he's over there on Kirk's ship right now.
The Farragut?
The Farragut. I mean, that's fair. He's very charming. Not a bad episode. Not the best way to start off the season, but it was fine. It was fine.
We had drinking Klingons and Spock getting hammered on blood wine.
Yeah. And then we got a tease at the end for the demarcation line.
The tease was great.
Of,
And that's
the
kind
Gorn
of,
War.
that kind of explained why they didn't get into as much trouble as they probably should have. And that because Starfleet had its eyes, basically focused on other areas of the galaxy, a demarcation line and that from representing the Gorn.
But I feel like I think that they were saying in the episode that the stolen technology from the Federation was going to be used in this war anyway. So we never really got to see the aftermath of this episode, which sort of sucks.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in the full season. Let's go into episode 2, Ad Aspera per Aspera, which was released on June 22nd. This is the court-martial of Commander Una Chin Riley for being an augment. That's basically it. This whole episode is a trial episode where she's pitted against Captain Batal, which is unfortunate. That's Captain Pike's girlfriend. Yeah. And what'd you guys think of this episode? Shows.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was along the lines of traditional Star Trek court dramas, going back to Measure of a Man, or when Dr. Bashir was in trouble for being augmented, even the augments as they appeared in Enterprise. I thought this was an excellent episode, sort of building out Una's character, some of her background, why the Federation was so scared of these augments. And it really hit on a lot of topics of discrimination, racism, and just all kinds of stuff like that. I thought it was brilliantly acted. And it sort of builds into the crossover episode later in the season where when Boimler talks about how important Una is to the recruitment of new members into Starfleet. It's like you get to see why from this episode. I didn't really see anything that didn't work in this episode as a court episode. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yep. Same. Yep. It falls into the line of great court episodes. And And that's one thing in Star Trek in that sometimes like court episodes start out but don't follow through. They tend to morph into something else. There was that old one in TOS where Kirk was accused of killing one of the members of the crew in that due to some sort of bad command or negligence. I can't remember the name of it. It started out as a court episode in that, and then morphed into something completely different. This one followed through, from with the prosecution, the arguments, the defense, and finally it got us to verdict at the end, which I really enjoy because I love a good procedural. But yeah, for all the reasons you were talking about, and that discrimination and that, and also like bad laws that kept people from being able to really share who they were, for fear of persecution and that, as we saw in the episodes, augments and Illyrians in particular, in that they were abused in society. They were she like Una had a very difficult break, which her natural healing ability couldn't handle, and they couldn't even take her to a hospital for fear of being outed and persecuted.
It's so timely how this episode is, right? Like, and how
it casts a mirror on society,
and that's what good sci-fi does. And I feel like the political climate of today really hits this hard.
There wasn't a lot in this episode that didn't work for me. I'm trying to think of anything that was actually bad. I know we had the legal geeks on when we discussed it on Strange New Worlds and that, and they took issue with some of the procedures. I wouldn't have done that. That's ridiculous.
Well, there's also like the stuff that doesn't make sense legally, which is fine, which is fair. Like, it's a TV show, but
as far as a core procedural episode of television in Star Trek, and that it works perfectly.
They should have included that Law and Order bong bong like throughout the episode. That would have been awesome.
Bam, 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 bam.
For myself, again, like everyone said, I love how timely this felt. Star Trek is at its best when it's people talking to each other, and I think this is one of the best examples of that. Yetide Badaki, who played Nira, was amazing this episode, and I really hope she comes back in Star Trek. She was really good in American Gods as well. She was one of the better parts of American Gods, which was not a great show and my favorite book, which is sad because that's my favorite book.
I know.
I thought Melanie Scrofano, who played Captain Batal, was very good in her role as the prosecutor who didn't want to prosecute her friend. This episode was amazing. I really liked the how Nira kept on pushing these so she was really fighting for rights, right? And it felt like she kept on pushing these things for her own reasoning, but in fact she had a plan the whole time, which was brilliant. When she was pushing April when he was on the stand, and everyone was like, oh, you just wanted your own message out. And it wasn't for that reason. It was so that she could show certain aspects of Una's personality so that she could be let free. And I think that was...
She really did a good job in showing Una's life and her decision, in her decision to hide the fact that she was Illyrian, her decision to enter Starfleet, and ultimately her decision to basically come out and confess the truth herself to Starfleet. Because that became a major plot point. Leon was racing around trying to find somebody who she thought was the one who might have leaked that information to Starfleet, and it turned out it was Una all along who told them, which became a very big plot point towards the resolution of her defense.
I was trying to think of the song. It was from WandaVision. It was what's her name all along? It was Wanda.
It was Agatha. Yeah, it was Una all along.
I also love the actual phrase that she says ad astra per aspera, which is to the stars through hardship. I think that is such an amazing Latin phrase that they they sort of co-opted for the Federation. Not the Federation. Was it the Federation before?
Yeah,
Federation. Federation before Starfleet. And then they ended up using that for Starfleet in the Boimler Age, which we'll talk about later. I don't think there's anything bad about this episode.
No,
I can't think of anything that.
We also got one of the funniest moments in that. I'm trying to remember the name of the Vulcan who was in charge of the prosecution.
What was his name?
I'm trying to think now.
Javis? Javis? Was that him?
No.
Are you talking about when he was having an argument with Spock?
Yeah, when he was having an argument with Spock.
Oh, they hate each other.
I know.
I'm sorry you had to see that.
That outburst.
Yeah.
I like that in the that whole sequence because it showed Ortega's she has this sort of this
she's a weirdly biased
she's a biased
character.
person, and I feel like that's because of the Klingon War, but we don't know that because they haven't shown her in anything other than flying the ship.
Yeah.
And I love that M'Benga was like, he was trying to reframe her point of view and he was a real ally in that moment. Like he was trying to help her see that, these people don't like each other. Like you got to look at their body language. You have to look at different. Yeah, you have to look at it from a different point of view. And I thought that was such an amazing point to have, especially in this episode where it was all from different points of view. So smart. The writers. That's why you pay them properly.
Pay them the money.
Yeah, man. Any other thoughts on Ad Astra? I would sing its praises. I think this should have been the premiere.
Yeah,
that would have made this better. Mm-hmm. Then the Toronto episode. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. La'an travels back to the 21st century, Canada, to prevent an attack which will alter humanity's future history. So basically, she meets this time traveler on the Enterprise. He gives her this device. Something happens. She ends up on a different Enterprise with Kirk at the helm, and they get transported back into 2020-ish time, Toronto. Thoughts on this episode? Who did I start with last time? Shows?
You started with me last time.
Okay, Hawk.
So yeah, this was another exceptional one coming straight off of episode 2. This one was focused primarily on Leon and also Kirk, who a lot of people didn't know was gonna make it back to this season. Well, we saw from previews that he was, but we didn't quite know exactly how he would. So yeah,
we got lots of him this season.
Leon encounters a time traveler, and that with a gunshot wound on one of the hallways of the Enterprise, and that he gives her that device. She activates it and finds herself on a completely different Enterprise, which is basically where a Federation doesn't exist, and that Starfleet is basically has like a more of a nationalistic attitude towards the stars, refusing to help a Vulcan ship that's being under attack from the Romulans, which is also being captained by a certain Spock. She and Kirk, wrestling with the device, end up going to Toronto, and it was amazing to think that Toronto is now a canon episode of Star Trek.
Yeah,
featured very prominently.
This seems like New York. No, it's Toronto.
We're in New York. All he had to do was turn around.
Yeah, they put the Eden Center right behind him.
But the episode took on so many different tones in that. It was a comedy. It was a romantic kind of something I didn't even see coming. It was a mystery that they had to figure out, a time paradox that they had to sort out, and gave us probably one of the most heartbreaking endings I've seen in in an episode this season.
Yep. Mm. Shows.
Oh, I was so excited when this episode came on and when it was Toronto. I remember the day after I had seen it, I was actually going to be in downtown Toronto, and I ended up taking pictures of myself in front of all the places where they ended up filming, because I thought it would be fun. Because you don't normally get to do that. I'm guessing people that live in cities that have those big monuments where you're going to see lots of TV shows filmed, and you can easily wander down to those places. But it was just cool. And then they were making jokes about that this is in a country that was formerly known as Canada. So it makes you wonder sort of what ends up happening in the Star Trek world to Canada.
I just don't understand. Unless Earth is just Earth instead of multiple places.
I mean, they still have nations and that, just not, they're all just united at that point. What happened that Canada's not Canada anymore?
Right. But it was a fun time travel episode. It was cool that they incorporated little kid Khan into it to try to help sort of La'an build up some of her backstory and see that, he was in her mind, he was this monster, but then she got to meet him when he was this little kid. And it was like that. If you could go back in time, and kill Hitler, would you, kind of thing. And she was sort of stuck with having to protect him to save her future.
Yeah.
Which was hard for her, but that's the parts of a good time travel episode is that it gets you thinking, right?
It was also a great kind of throwback to City on the Edge of Forever in that when they had to basically allow Joan Collins' character in that to die in order for World War II to happen, because they find out that without World War II and that there was no technological push and there was no advancement into space.
Yep.
Crazy. I don't know what else to add to what you guys said. I love this episode. The one thing I really, really enjoyed was seeing Kirk being smart and not just being the womanizer person that we had seen in TOS. The chess sequence was so Kirk-like. It was amazing. And it really, his personality really shone through. This episode also, Paul Wesley really brought out the Shatner Kirk, as opposed to when we saw him in season 1, which was another different Kirk. This is another different alternate Kirk. So we'd seen 2 alternate Kirks at this point, played by Paul Wesley, and I really like Paul Wesley. Sorry, Hawk, you were saying.
The one great thing about that, as a character exploration of Leon and that, was that she actually got to experience what it was like to have somebody look at her and not know like her family's backstory for once.
Like, could you imagine if you had a last name of Hitler? Mm-hmm. Like, everyone would just be like, "Oh, you."
Hi, I'm Michael Hitler. Oh.
I mean, wouldn't you just change your last name then if that was...
I assume you
What
would.
if you were arrogant enough to just go on with it and it's like, don't worry.
My name is Eric Stalin. No. Like
we got to see Pelia in this episode too.
Yes, so we got to learn more about Pelia. I love seeing her back. I don't understand how they got to Pelia in such a short amount of time.
And how they got through, and how they got across the border.
Without passports?
It said they snuck across the border. I don't know how easy that is to do.
I mean, not especially where they would be crossing, because it would be like Ontario. It's like, our borders is not that unsecure.
So for the sake of the story, they made that work.
Yeah. But Pelia was really good, and I really...
She was great. Yeah, archaeology department.
And it was her stealing stuff. Amazing.
The warehouse with like graffiti archaeology department.
So good. The ending was also very good when La'an got back to her Enterprise, ends up calling Kirk just to see him again and make sure he's okay. And it was a good interaction with Prime Universe Kirk, and it felt like such a good match. These two.
Was that our first time seeing Prime Universe Kirk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, technically, yeah, but I mean, like his first
the other
time
ones were alternate.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she doesn't remember the first alternate anyway, right? And also imagine having this whole other timeline in your brain that never happened, and you can't tell anyone because a time agent was like, "You can't tell anyone about this, by the way, because you're gonna screw shit up." Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and time agents were back, so awesome.
I want more time agents. I just want a series about this. I want Quantum Leap in Star Trek. Is that so hard? Is that so hard, Paramount? Give me Quantum Leap in Star Trek.
Just every episode is a different era, a different Star Trek series, a different Star Trek like historical event happening that just jump between them.
Yes, and the fact that I'm not getting Quantum Leap for a little bit, season 2, I'm gonna be like, I love Quantum Leap.
You got to go back to the Bakula one.
I have. I've watched it multiple times. Also, I would love Jonathan Archer to come back. Let's see. Episode 4, July 6th episode. It's Among the Lotus Eaters. This is the episode where the Enterprise returns to a planet that they had previously, which they had previously encountered. Captain Pike takes himself and a landing party down, and they ended up forgetting everything, which, ends up being this whole thing. Yes. Shouse, what do you think about this episode?
Yeah, so it's like that 50 first dates movie, right? Where every time they wake up, they've lost their memory. It was one of those like episodic kind of things where, they go down to a planet. There's like big sort of Star Trek architecture. Like they had that big sort of castle that the previous security, the red shirt, ended up not dying and ended up surviving and ended up creating this whole thing. It was one of those episodes where it was just sort of nicely packaged. It doesn't really connect too much to the rest of the season, but it was still a fun idea. The characters forgetting things, having to figure out who they were. I think Next Gen did an episode like that too, right? Where they all forgot who they were, and Worf figured he was the captain because he was the strongest.
And he had the sash.
Yeah.
None of you have a sash. I have a sash.
I have a sash. Right. So, like I think this episode was the first one this season that really felt super episodic to me. Like We've never been to that planet before. We'll probably never be back again. This was the story, and it was just a fun little episode of Star Trek.
Huck, you're muted. Oh, there you go.
You're fine. Am I muted?
No, you're fine now. It was just a delay. Right, cool. Weird. You were like in a Godzilla movie where you were, and then your voice came in.
Okay.
Are you downloading Baldur's Gate?
No, I'm not.
I wouldn't blame you.
Neither am I.
just lots of porn.
As is the way.
This one was the one this was a really boring episode for me. And it shouldn't have been, because it was like, it was supposed to be, it was kind of hyped up that this was going to be like a really interesting episode, that we're returning to Rigel 7, which, TOS fans know from like the original The Cage. And that there was a tragedy there that, only a handful of officers made it out of there alive, Pike and Spock. It turned out to be so boring. I did like the whole forget me not thing just kind of went nowhere. They had this really good character actor. I'm trying to remember his name. Hold on, I'm just looking up on Reed Birney, who played Luke in it.
He's the one that didn't want to remember his family.
Yeah,
he was so good. He was so good.
He's a great character actor. I've seen him in tons of stuff. Loved him. It was just like he was just a guy in this movie or this episode. This one just didn't work for me.
That's fair. That's totally fair. This episode for me was all right, I guess. This was the first episode for really Pike. Like Pike had been a secondary character in all the previous episodes, if he had shown up at all. He'd only really shown up in the second episode. So this one, he was the main character, and it wasn't really him as well, because he had forgotten everything. And then the episode starts off with him and Batal having relationship issues again, which, happened all first season. And it's happening again in season 2, and I'm just like,
well, they were working through it. He was having trouble because he knew he was going to be a beep beep, and he didn't know if he could be in a relationship, right? So I feel like we're watching that relationship sort of try to heal itself as we go through the season.
The thing is, he doesn't know if he's with her when he's beep beep too. So that's the issue. He doesn't know what happens after the beep beep. She could be after the beep. We are terrible people by saying that, but that's what happens to him. I really liked the guy that played Zach, the red shirt that was left behind, and I really wanted to see more of him, because he was so good every time he was on screen, and like he was so hurt that he was left behind, and Pike just came back to be like, whatever. And he didn't, and no one checked on him. Like, could you imagine being abandoned by someone who you thought was your friend? That, I would have loved to have seen more of him.
And I know that was one of the things that just didn't make sense. That he was supposed to have died on that planet, but they didn't know for sure. And there was no attempt to kind of retrieve the bodies of their fallen comrades. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was weird.
But it kind of plays off of the whole red shirt thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you so many red shirts died throughout Star Trek. Now to give you the story from one of their perspectives, you know.
I did really enjoy the Erica Ortegas not remembering but still flying like a badass because Ortegas is a badass.
Yeah. Which gives you an impression of how often she flies that ship. That it's not something she has to consciously think about. It's just muscle memory to her at this time.
I thought that was awesome. I love Ortegas. I love Melissa Navia as that.
Yeah,
so cool.
So do I. I know.
We need more of her.
You know, despite the way they kind of show her as some kind of, you know, in those weird scenes where she's kind of biased and you see it coming out.
But I like that she's so multi-layered.
But she's so good in all the scenes in that. Everybody was kind of saying how she never really got her episode this season yet. And yet, throughout the episodes that we do have in that, there's always that bit of Ortega's peppered in that. Yeah. And it's always like
she's always the one that's shining in that episode.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, I want more of that.
Yeah.
What if one episode is just so good that they can never get up to that level again? It's like Baldur's Gate, but in Star Trek.
Baldur's Gate coming to you on PC, PS5, and Xbox.
We're not sponsored, but I would love to be sponsored by Larian. That said, this episode is all right. It's all right. It's fine. Yeah. It's not an episode I'm going to go back and watch multiple times. That's what I was fine watching it the first time.
Save that for the crossover and the musical episodes.
There are a bunch of episodes I'd watch again. Like Tomorrow is an episode I've watched multiple times.
Me too.
As much as Ad Astra is a hard episode to watch, I feel like I could watch it again because it's so well acted and so well scripted. Broken Circle, I could take or leave that episode. Yeah. I think that's really my metric. Am I going to watch it again?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Speaking of that, Episode 5, Charades. And a shuttle accident leads to Spock's Vulcan DNA being removed by aliens, making him fully human and completely unprepared to face the Pring's family during an important ceremonial dinner.
This is the one with the tech support line.
Yes, this is. I'm gonna start with Shos on this one because I know me and Hawk have thoughts on this episode. A lot of them. Shos, what do you think of Charades?
Okay, so definitely an opportunity for some comic relief. I always liked T'Pring. I think she's a really cool character. I know that the whole idea is we want the relationship between Chapel and Spock, but I was always kind of cheering on Spock and T'Pring.
Same, because I've always been cheering T'Pring. T'Pring is amazing in this series.
Yeah, and I feel like she's always been very supportive of Spock.
Agreed.
And Chapel is almost just like she's just like the girl who's just like at the other end of the bar smiling at him.
The fun girl.
Where T'Pring has just always been there for him. And the whole thing with the parents, I loved how T'Pring's father is so like whipped by the mother that he can't have any saying of his own. Like he's like, oh, I'd like to try some of these.
Shows.
She would.
Shows. Do you know who played her father?
No, who was that?
Michael Ben Yair. Do you know who that is?
No, who was that?
That is the voice of Bob from Reboot.
Oh, wow.
Yes. He is one of your childhood heroes, my friend.
Oh, that's why I liked him so much. That's awesome. But yeah, just the whole thing where, Pike was trying to help them out with the complex Vulcan ceremonies and Spock was enjoying a little bit of being human, but the whole thing about it's not truly who he is, and Chapel trying to get him back to who he was because he's not who she fell in love with in the first place. I enjoyed the episode. I remember seeing, and I'm sure that's where you guys are going to go. I remember seeing some conversations online about this idea of taking apart sort of biracial characters. I remember reading up on some of that stuff. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. But overall, I kind of thought it was kind of a funny episode. And just to build on those tech support aliens that would come on and go, we have completed all of our responsibilities. There is no need to call us back.
No need for further contact.
No need for further contact. Like it was like you were talking to a tech support line. I thought it was That was pretty.
They
cool.
were the DMV of the universe.
Yeah. All right. So tell me what you guys thought.
All right, Hawk.
So yeah, this one we had a lot of discussions about on Strange New Pod and that in particular, yeah, because it was an episode that talked about biraciality and that, and also an episode that took apart a biracial person and that. We've seen,
and it's not the
happen
first
before.
time it's happened on Star Trek or on TV in general.
Yeah, exactly. There was a Voyager episode in that where B'Elanna was basically turned into one Klingon person and then one human person, and a lot of people did not think it was handled right. And this one definitely had problems in that, in the way it speaks to biracial people, and that behavior is somehow tied in to a person's genes right down to the core, and that, which is not true. You know, it was a very big misstep in the writers, and that to kind of go back to this kind of well, and then just to kind of do it wrong, which is sad because this could have turned out to be like a really good episode because there were a lot of great components to it, and that not least of which was the return of Mia Kirshner as Amanda, Spock's mother,
Amanda Grayson, yeah.
And yeah, Amanda Grayson. She was fantastic, and it was great seeing her
She
back.
was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
although no Pelia, which is very disappointing because they had a history.
That was so weird, right?
Because Pelia made a point of saying that she knew Amanda Grayson in the first episode, right?
The first
and
episode.
They never meet up again. Oh,
she was off doing something else at the time, and for some reason they, that the one human that was so important to her more than any other else, because it was the first person she ever came out to as a Lanthanite. And yeah,
Lithuanian. I
don't know. That's a real thing, Shao.
Lufthansa? What's that airline?
Oh, Lufthansa. The airport. Jimmy! Woo, Jimmy! Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, despite it, there were some great bits. I mean, like T'Pring's parents, were just like.
I really like them.
I know.
It does remind me of meeting like parents of partners that I've been with, right? And
yeah,
like, oh, these are the disapproving parents. That's not fun.
I know.
Although that being said, that is a stereotype though. Like these are Indian actors, so that's another stereotype that just keeps getting played on TV, and it's unfortunate. Even though it was done really well, right?
Yeah,
but it was still
like when I first saw it, the first thing that popped into my mind was the Birdcage or La Caja Falls, and that where it's like basically people with like something that they don't want the rest of the world, or they're meeting these conservative in the future in-laws and that don't approve of like their lifestyle, and trying to pretend and play a part in that until eventually it all falls apart and they have to, and everything comes out into the light. But yeah, it was a major misstep in that, and I know, like with our co-host Giraffe and that, it really made her angry that Star Trek kind of revisits these themes in 2023 and doesn't, and just keeps making the same mistakes as before.
Yeah, that they keep going back to the well of this trope that's outdated, and really, that person, again, like we said, a person isn't what DNA they're made up of. And I watched this with one of my children, my eldest, and she's biracial. So I think the good thing about this is that she brought up, it made her start thinking about her as a biracial person. And she's like, it's sad that, he had to hide one half of himself to people, right? And these were the questions that came out of this episode for her. So on one hand, I'm happy that she had those questions, but it's sad that she had to go through it from this episode, right? But we've had the conversation, and she realizes that that's not what makes her her, and I think that's a good thing.
No,
she's her because she's her.
She's her. It's like the experiences she's had, the experiences she's going to have. Those are what shape a person, in that, not where or who they came from. In that, it's what they go through and what they end up choosing to do that defines a person.
That being
Nothing.
said, like, even though there are problems with the story, I think Ethan Peck did an amazing job acting. He was really funny. Like, he had some funny moments. Michael Ben Yair, like Show said, was amazing as the as the father that was just like, oh, I do like this, but I can't like this. Oh wait, I do like this. Oh wait, I can't. Mia Kishner, like Hawk said, amazing every time she's on screen. I want more of her. I want more.
And
of her.
how great was Pike in this episode? Just as like the background guy reacting to it all.
His facial expressions. I never realized how good of a comedic actor he was until this episode.
I know.
And then finally, Gia Sandhu as T'Pring, just amazing. I love her as a character, and I really want her to show up eventually with T'Pau, because T'Pau is alive at this point, right? She shows up in TOS as well. Very old T'Pau, but could you imagine these two amazing characters together on screen? Oh, T'Pring was so. Oh, and the ending when they go on a break and then Chapel and him just immediately hook up. That made me so angry. So angry.
Yeah. I know. And like nobody we knew was rooting for the, the Spock Chapel relationship and that. And it's just like
they really pushed it though.
And then like they decided to go with like friends for it. It's like we were on a break.
I just don't understand. Let's get off of this episode and move on to.
Can I add something though, really quick? Just sort of. And I apologize. I did not get to hear the comments on Strange New Pod on this particular episode. But I know, right? But I wonder if going into an episode with a particular frame of mind, a particular point of view, can cloud your experience with an episode, just based on your own personal experiences, your own things that you've dealt with in your life, any types of discriminations you felt, or things like that. And going into an episode like this without even considering that would be a concern for people, or that biracial, like my kids are biracial as well, but I didn't even once consider that this was going to be a problematic story idea. Like not even once. So because I fall into a category of people, I suppose, that wouldn't feel the same types of discriminations or the same types of difficulties. I think I'm watching a different episode than somebody who's looking at it from a different perspective, right? It's
true. Like not everyone has the same media literacy as other people, right? There are things that we'll see that obviously, like we've talked about this on other episodes of this show and Strangely Pod, whereas like I see things from my perspective and it might not happen for you. Like I see things from a lot of Asian Canadian, Asian background, story things that bother me. Like this season, our Asian characters are more or less missing except for La'an. That's what I can see throughout the season. And it's unfortunate because there were a lot of different Asian characters on the show. It just keeps on getting pared down for whatever reasons. But this with media tropes, these aren't things that are, that people, that at least writers don't know about, right? There are things that they should be handled from a, I don't want to say delicate point of view, but they should really be aware of what they're saying, because there are people that will get these messages, right? And this is written by someone that is biracial too,
and directed by someone who is biracial. So, but at the other end of that, there's some, we had talked about how there should have been like kind of like, I want to say basically like a sensitivity board that these kinds of things kind of go through. If they're going to tackle a subject like this, put it through some sort of like a human resource sensitivity board.
Like we really applies. Like especially episode 8, episode 8 under the cloak of war, like that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Very problematic. But it, there are people. There are so many different points of view, and some people won't see it, but that's not necessarily their fault.
And I'm not implying that there's anything wrong with any of these points of view. What I'm implying is that if you look at it from a business perspective,
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to make an episode of TV that's going to be interesting, exciting, friendly, funny, whatever, to the widest audience possible.
Mhm.
And if they focus group this and they say that out of 100 people that saw this episode, 2 of them found it problematic because of their own personal experiences, but 98 of them really, really enjoyed it,
Mhm.
they're probably business-wise, money-wise, they're probably not going to care that there's and I bring this up because I'm thinking of Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and that particular show went the opposite direction, and they started writing stuff that got people really angry.
Mm-hmm.
They created a character that was bisexual at the age of like 10 years old. They created like a 10-year-old bisexual kid that was like the main girl's son or adopted son. And I remember reading a lot of articles online. People were angry, like, why does this fit into this story? I'm not a Law and Order Special Victims Unit fan. I'm not. I just remember reading about this, and I'm wondering if it's in some cases you feel like you could go the other direction too far and start to make people feel uncomfortable because they've tried to be too sensitive. And it gets tricky, but I feel like a lot of it is about money. I feel like a lot of it is about what's going to make the production company the most money, what's going to get the highest ratings, what's going to make the most people happy. Not what's going to make a few people happy, but what's going to make the most people happy. That's just my perspective.
There's a flip side to that coin, though.
Okay,
especially with the Law and Order metaphor in that. Like, there's
Yeah.
a reason like it's hard to find the first 5 seasons of Law and Order like on any streaming service, and that is because like when you look back on that, it's like a lot of it was like people of color and that, you know, basically having their civil rights abused and that by the cops who were the protagonists and heroes of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right. And then we ended up in a situation where people were uncomfortable with police and what police were doing, and yeah, I mean, we talked at the beginning of this episode about what's going on with these strikes and everything like that, and that's why I was suggesting that it's possible that episodes like going back to the well like this, they're trying to go back because enough people like it that it outweighs the people that don't.
But what would have been amazing is if they went back to the well and improved upon it. They did the same thing that they did back in the 90s, which is way more problematic, right? Like you can go back to a trope, but make it better. Like put it on its head. I really want to talk about episode 8 now because that is a trope that could have been way better if they went from a different thing. Anyway, that's not important.
But we'll get there. Why don't we get to episode 6?
Let's keep going.
Yeah. Lost in translation. Uhura seems to be the only one who can hear a strange sound that seems to be triggering terrifying hallucinations. This is a return of Paul Wesley's Kirk as well. Hawk, you get to start this one.
I think. Oh yeah,
No,
they do.
remember?
Yeah. I've only got to see this episode once, and that I really have to go back and revisit. But it was a great Uhura episode. That it was focused on her, and that she picks up on some sort of a signal, and then starts experiencing basically like living dreams, hallucinations, and that kind of like night terrors back in from the TNG days. With Troy and that, and the whole entire crew experiencing sleep deprivation.
That was a creepy episod.
Yeah, it was this one was a really great episode in that, in the fact that how to say,
it was shot really well. This is another genre one, right? This is
a genre one, yeah, kind of obviously bottle, but
it's still also, it's a horror one, right? And it's an introduction.
It starts out horror in that because like you know, you don't understand why she's seeing these images and that until later on you learn that these images are basically a language that she has to interpret.
I think I'm gonna rephrase my horror because it's more of a character study, and we had talked about this just a couple of days ago.
Yeah. It basically, she thinks there's a possibility she might be losing her mind, even though they can't find anything physically wrong with her in that. But Uhura, being Uhura in that, eventually has to interpret the hallucinations that she's seeing, and it realizes that what she's experiencing is actually a message from a species that can't articulate in a common tongue with the humans who are basically destroying them. With this mining equipment that they're using.
Yep.
Yeah.
What'd you enjoy about this? We don't
I
have to
enjoyed
summarize.
the-
Remember, we just have to say what we liked. What we
yeah,
didn't.
I enjoyed an episode that focused on Uhura. I can't remember what it was I didn't enjoy about it, so I'm going to have to.
I don't recall anything
Yeah.
I disliked.
I don't
Haven in chat didn't like the loud noises that Uhura was hearing because it was giving them a headache, which is
Oh,
fair.
Yeah,
They were
it
very loud.
was
This episode
it was
very loud.
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, but that ended up being the thing, in that it was her talented ear, and that ended up causing her all that grief, right?
Chefs.
Anyway.
Yeah, so this episode had some interesting things. There was another return of Kirk, so it was another opportunity for Kirk to come back to the ship. It was this whole thing about the mining with that mining refinery thing. You got to see a little bit of the relationship between Pelia and Una, and sort of what was going on there. And then there was the crewman that sort of lost his mind. I'm just sort of throwing points out there that I found were interesting. The relationship between Uhura and Kirk, I really liked. I liked that he was trying to support her, even though she thought she was going crazy, and so he was still there to like it's we're building up on this Kirk character more and more. Yeah, I think that this one was a less like one of the if we're talking about, is this like the metric, is this going to be an episode I'm going to go back to? I probably won't, because it's not that memorable for me. Like I thought it was fine overall. I love Uhura, and the actress that does an amazing job. But
Celia.
I'm not I don't think I'm a fan of the episode just in general. It wasn't that memorable for me.
I like this episode a lot. I like this episode a lot for a couple reasons. One of them being Paul Wesley returning as Kirk, and I love his relationship with his brother Sam Kirk. And
I forgot those parts. Those were awesome.
They have this sort of tension between them because they are trying to, they're brothers, but they're vying for their father's admiration, right? And because Kirk, oh my God, they're both Kirks. Because James Kirk is, fast tracking up the ranks. He's becoming, the apple in his father's eye, and that's unfair to Sam, who's, doing amazing work on the Enterprise as it is. But this makes me really want to meet George Kirk Sr., because that, played by Chris Hemsworth in aging makeup, I assume that's what's going to happen. Just let it happen, Paramount. Whenever you pay your writers, just do that as well. I really like, despite how loud the sound effects were, I love the hallucinations that Ramon and Uhura received.
Zombie Hammer.
Zombie Hammer. And seeing Hammer come back and have this whole new sequence with Uhura in that flashback, or not flashback, the video file. And it showed their relationship and how much it really meant to Uhura, even though we didn't really see it in the first season. We saw it a little bit, but not too much. I think what really makes me want to watch this episode again is the last scene of this episode where Kirk and Uhura are at a table, and then they have Spock come and sit with them.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting there like, holy shit, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's the Holy Trinity has formed, and and it's gonna keep going, and we're headed towards that time that we're so fond of, and those characters that we're so fond of. Like that moment, I can still picture in my head, and it still gives me goosebumps. Like I'm talking about it right now, and I'm just like, man, we had said before that it felt like history was being made right there. Like that is a moment in time that is just, it always happens.
I know their origin started somewhere, and I like that it just gets peppered in there.
Yeah.
But doesn't it also make you a little bit sad too, though? Like I remember looking at that, being all excited, and then I'm like, at some point we're gonna lose these Strange New Worlds specific characters.
Yeah.
They're gonna go somewhere, whether they're gonna die off, or they're gonna be transferred, or they're gonna be doing something else. They're not going to be the main characters of the Enterprise anymore, and so that part kind of makes me a little sad too.
But
I know, especially after. Oh, sorry.
So, but how amazing would it be to find out what happens to Ortegas when Kirk becomes like the Enterprise captain, right? She's gonna be a captain of her own ship, like no doubt. Unless she dies. They don't kill Ortegas.
I know.
Don't do it.
I understand where you're coming from, Shouse, especially like coming off of like Picard season 3 and that idea of that particular family unit that we grew up with and that, and it's how it's like we think they'll never go away. They'll last forever, and that we'll always have our family. And this feels like this family that we're just getting to know has a very there's an expiration date set on it, right? By canon, by history, everything.
Oh man, yeah.
The producer, though, I remember reading the article about that same article where the producer was asking for 20 episodes. When he was asked how long he thinks the show could go, he said he thinks they easily have 10 seasons.
You can't.
That they could do of this.
You can't.
You could.
Well,
if you turned into a TOS reboot, you could.
You totally could do 10 seasons.
Even
within the time frame they're talking about, it's
half
like
a year. It could be like Survivor, where we're at season 45 and it's only been on for 10 years or 20 years.
Like you think about where this season left off and where it's going to go in with its first episode, and that there's time. They do have time. Yeah.
But at some point, I think I would like a TOS reboot with these characters.
I 100% would.
Right?
I would watch
to have all of those characters on the Enterprise. We just got Scotty. Like to start seeing those characters, continuing the adventures, maybe outside of the J.J. Abrams kind of Kelvin universe.
I would love Kelvin to come back, but it just I don't see it ever happening. I want it.
Yeah. If they're gonna make another movie, I want the Strange New Worlds cast to be in it.
Oh, yes, that's how you end the Pike
they
era,
have to do
right?
they have to do across the Star Trek verse.
Right.
And it's gonna be all Star Trek series, sort of like a multiverse kind of thing.
I want it, but it would be so painful. I can't see any of those characters. And when they do that, they're gonna kill people. I'm just like, no, I can't do it. Don't kill my favorite characters. Let's move on to those old scientists. This when an accident occurs, when the Cerritos is looking at this portal, Boimler and Mariner are sent back in time.
Maybe we'll find some tachyons.
I love tachyons. Oh my god, I love Rutherford. I'm gonna start this one because screw you guys. I love this episode.
Do it. You go first.
I love that this episode started off with animation, and we get to see the Cerritos, and we get to see,
and it ended with animation.
Yes, exactly. And I love hearing these characters that I love. I love Lower Decks. I love Rutherford. I love Tendi. I love Mariner. I love Ransom too. I love all of them. So seeing them and seeing them go down and be excited to do science, because as much as I love Strange New Worlds, they aren't happy people. They aren't. So when I see Rutherford and Tendi being so excited to go study tachyons, like Joseph said, brings a joy to my heart. I love it so much. Eugene Cordeo, heart you. Love you so much. When Boimler gets pushed through that through the portal and he does his scream, and then you hear him say, "Oh, you guys look so real." I was like, oh man, he's perfect in live action. Both oh my god, what are their names?
Jack
Quaid and Tawny Newsome. Perfect in their live action roles. They felt so right in it. They had the same mannerisms. Like you see Boimler do his fast walk in the background, just in the background. Like he didn't even do it in front.
Yeah, his wiggle walk.
He
This is how they do it in Section 31.
It's so fun, and it's so crazy how good they were in live action and how endearing they are. They're fanboys sent back in time. Like I could imagine if we got sent into Star Trek land and it was real. I would die. I would die, literally, by a phaser, probably. I can't think of everything that I love, because I love everything. I love when Boimler and Spock were working together, because why not? That's amazing. These two, Boimler's like favorite person in the world he gets to work with. Mariner working with Uhura and having her realize that she needs to take some time for herself, like something that Mariner is known for. I love that Pike kept on having to calm Boimler down like a child and be like, maybe you should just chill for a bit and all of that.
Stand over here.
Stand over here, and all the facial expressions.
But I think Pike really enjoyed the hero worship.
Yeah.
That he was getting off of Boimler.
Exactly. There's one moment where they're in his quarters, and he does this little smile when Mariner says something about how Boimler dressed up as him for Halloween and the hair and all that stuff, and he's just like, and he's like, wait, I gotta be serious again. Oh my god, I can't talk about the whole episode, right? Just being amazing because I just go over the whole episode. This was my favorite episode of Star Trek until the musical happened.
Yeah.
Like this went straight up to the top. I like that it didn't just feel like it didn't matter that they went back in time, that there are reasons that why Boimler and Mariner came back. And I like that they affected Haven just wrote, and Boimler trying to avoid the beep beep chair. When Mariner said, does he remember?
Does he know about the beep beep chair?
I was just dying. It's so good. And then, oh God, seeing the Strange New Worlds cast in animation at the end was just the perfect cherry on the top of this amazing episode. The one thing I didn't like, and this is so nitpicky, it's so very nitpicky, and I hate saying this. I wanted to see live action Rutherford. I wanted to see live action Tendi. I would have loved to see even Noelle Wells show up as her grandmother on the Orion ship. Mm-hmm. That would have been amazing, right? That's a missed opportunity. Like
she could have valid concerns.
She could have been down there doing her science thing on the portal.
Yeah.
That being said, I love this episode. This is an episode I've watched so many times already. I will watch it again and again and again and again. Let's go with Shouse. Wait, was Shouse the first one last time? I don't remember.
No, I was first one last time. So Shouse.
Yeah. So they did the whole opening sequence as well in animation, complete with the that creature that's sucking on the back of the Cerritos, sucking on the Enterprise. Like they have they got the koala in the space and everything. Like it was an episode that was crafted out of love for the series, for Lower Decks and for Strange New Worlds. It was funny. I loved all the stuff that Una, where she was like worried, why doesn't Boimler like me? Does Boimler know something about me?
Oh yeah,
right.
I didn't expect to cry in this episode.
Yeah, then finds out that she's on a recruitment poster, and that sort of builds to that episode 2 where she was just trying to get accepted, and then it went so far for her to see that in the future not only is she accepted, but she's the poster face of Starfleet, which is cool. But it was just a fun episode all around. I agree with Eric 100%. I'd watch this episode over and over and over again.
You should.
Yes.
Oh, and I have. Yeah. I'm watching it right now. Actually, it's on the screen over there.
What was amazing about this episode is that even though it's Star Trek, it's interconnected, and that these are two vastly different shows, which which required very different perspectives as far as writers, and that one is like an hour-long adventure series every week with dashes of comedy here and there. One is a straight-out half-hour animated comedy, but at no point does the writing of the characters in either series ever seem to clash with each other, and it just seems to be complemented like here and there. Like Mariner's humor, it like plays out so well in real life, and that one bit I always go back to is her sliding the hands across the table with a very loud squeaking sound. It's just that one thing alone, but it's just like this translates so well into live action. Jack Quaid was fantastic as Boimler in that. He kind of got the lion's share of the episode in that with this one because he was the first through the portal. But again, that played in perfectly to like the writing style of Lower Decks, and that Mariner got through because she thought she was saving him.
Yep.
And end up screwing up their chances. But yeah, it was comedic, it was heartfelt, it was like a love letter, and it also contrasted greatly like the kind of times that they were living in, and that it's like the TOS era that that this is taking place in was a way different era than the TNG era that the Boimler Mariner are living in, right? We can see it right off the bat with their approach to the Orions, and that Orions were all pirates, and that there's been 12 pirate attacks in this section. He's like, actually, Orions aren't all pirates in my time.
It's sort of offensive thinking they all are.
Like, it shows you how far the series has come in that certain aspect. But yeah, this is an episode I'll probably revisit over and over and over again.
And you have, right?
Yeah, I have. I've seen it at least 3 or 4 times right now.
So there's a sequence where Boimler is being made fun of by Chapel and Ortegas.
Oh,
yes,
at the bar.
And just seeing how no matter where Boimler goes, he's always the target of people trying to just mess with him. I thought that was awesome.
Another thing I really loved about this is that they brought back Enterprise. As someone who enjoyed the series, despite all its issues, I loved how much they loved Hoshi and Mayweather, which are 2 of the best characters, the most underused characters of Enterprise. And to hear that Ortegas was like, I went to my gym was named after Travis Mayweather, and Uhura was like, I wrote papers on Hoshi. I was like, damn right, those 2 characters need the respect that they deserved. And then they teased that we were going to see an NX-01 class, and they didn't do it, and I was so angry. I was so angry, but so very little angry because it was still so amazing. So amazing. Oh, okay. I think we're going to have to take a drink of water and prepare ourselves, because we're going to go into episode 8.
We're going to go to complete switch of mood and
under the cloak of war.
Incoming transport.
So Captain Pike and his crew welcome a Klingon defector aboard the USS Enterprise, but his presence triggers the revelation of some shocking secrets during the Klingon War. Hawk, I think you're the first one of this one. I wasn't on Strange New Pod to talk about this, and I talked to you at length about this episode. How many issues I had with it.
Like, going into this, it's like we'd had a big discussion, and that was, with our co-host and that, and there was a lot of feelings, not all of them great. And I went into watching this episode the first time, knowing all this, so I try to keep it balanced. I try to keep it perspective, but this episode, the way it handled its ending, in regards to M'Benga and what happened between him and this Klingon, I know they meant to talk about PTSD and the effects it can have on a person and that, but this episode, the ending of this episode, I don't know. Again, someone should have been there on some sort of a sensitivity board in that, because there were a lot of stereotypes in regards to African American men that were played out on this that were not good. Basically, it's why a lot of African American men fear like a traffic stop by the cops and that, because of these preconceptions that somehow they're the ones who cannot control their temper. And the way this episode played out, it seems to me like M'Benga was responsible for murdering that Klingon.
I think that was that's the implication.
That's what they implied.
Yeah. But it's made worse by the fact that, the plot revolving around the knife with the blood on it and that was basically planted on this dead Klingon, allowing him to take the blame and that. And it reminded me of like a cop who drops a gun on an unarmed suspect that they just shot. I don't know why it played out. I don't know why this episode went through. Like its director, Jeff Bird, and that he grew up like he worked very closely under Spike Lee on some very great movies that he did. I can't believe that something like this kind of escaped his purview when directing this episode.
Did he write this too, or just direct it?
I think there was another writer in that, but at the same time, like, everything that played out was under his purview in that, and
this was written by Davey Perez and Anitra Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. David Perez, who also wrote Among the Lotus Eaters and that. So, like this was for me, this was the worst episode of the season. It left a very very dark stain on a character that we love, and he's a legacy character, and we have to live with this kind of knowledge going forward with this character. It was a huge misstep, and I didn't like this episode at all.
I'm gonna go off of Hawk right now, Shus, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I remember watching this episode and really enjoying the flashbacks to the Klingon War because I thought that was really interesting, and it felt like Firefly when they would go back in time and see what the brown coats were like and what they were going through, and they were on the losing end of the war. So, that was sort of interesting to see the perspective of that. But this episode, again, we get to see very little of Ortegas, who was a war hero. Again, we hear, and we see a little bit of her xenophobia, like her prejudice against Klingons, which, we just see the prejudice. We don't see the reasoning behind it. This episode would have worked if we got different perspectives of the Klingon War, right? There's this war criminal, defector, but sort of war criminal that he is. And
he was technically, I mean, like, he defected. He operated under the story that he turned on his own guard in order to escape and defect,
But like I was saying, the Hawk, how amazing would it have been if Ortegas was in that battle on that planet? Like, we could have seen her perspective of this. We could have seen the different perspectives of these three main characters that are really affected, Chapel, Ortegas, and M'Benga, by this battle, and this one Klingon character, right? And we could have seen the effects of this. Like, this episode was supposed to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. Obviously, that's what this is about. And the atrocities of war, right? But
absolutely, and it's long-lasting effects, and it's like the bigotry that can inspire.
Yeah, But we don't really get many perspectives of it. Like, we just see what's happening to M'Benga and Chapel during this time. We don't even see the Klingon commander's view of what's happening these are different things you could have shown in this episode. Oh man, and what sucks is that the actor who played
Dakra
is he's from so many things. He's from The Wire, for God's sake.
Robert Wisdom. Yeah,
and he's so good in this.
He's no offense to him because he's great in any role he takes on.
Yeah, exactly. But the idea of black on black violence at the end is so frustrating, and like, as someone who's driven through the States and is terrified to drive through the States, like, this episode really upset me. And like the prejudice you see from that type of racial stereotyping. Oh my God, this episode could have been so much better. And it just like, that ending just ruined the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's not even like, I know you've told me stories about from your personal life. It's not, you don't even have to go through the States and that to have experienced, like, people's preconceived notions regarding you.
Like, why did it have to be M'Benga that was the person that killed all these people? It could have been Chapel, right?
Yeah,
it could have been Ortegas. I don't think it would have been Ortegas. I think she's flying up in the stars doing that. But like,
or maybe they decide not to go that route. Why don't they show, like, why couldn't they have had like M'Benga deal with it? I mean, we've seen him deal with grief in other ways too, losing his own daughter and not eventually having to let her kind of go to the stars and that. So
he went from revenge, right? He just went because he was angry, and that's a terrible thing to show.
Yeah.
It maddens me that from that point on, I was like, so you saw the kid die, right?
Yeah.
But he just went straight into killing everyone instead of, trying to process and like go through grief. Like, that would have been more interesting for me, is if he was if it was broken by this and he had to leave that wartime area, right? That would have been way more interesting.
Or if he had exposed him as the fraud that he was.
Yes.
And then
that would have been amazing.
Which would have been a much worse fate for the guy, you know? A defector from the Klingon Empire and that, enjoying like life in Starfleet and that as a diplomat, you know, making peace and that. To have that all exposed and maybe, you know, actually I had kind of thought maybe at some point a couple of Klingons show up and take him back to Kronos for trial.
And then they turn around and do this.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That would have been a much better ending.
The fact that Chapel was part of this cover up at the end also made me really angry for her as a character. That seems like something she would never do. Like
it seems like it's such a betrayal in that, but you know they explain it away with you know, it's like, oh, you don't understand, you had to be there.
Yeah, and that's a bad way to go about it. Like that just like you're allowed to do this just because you've it's so frustrating to think about. It's like this problematic episode with wonderful performances. That's what bothers me. It's a beautiful show. It's always a beautiful show, but like seeing a wartime aspect of this show is very different, and we'd never seen anything. But it's all marred by all this bad stuff.
Very bad messaging.
We had Clint Howard in this episode.
Yes, we did. I know.
And him showing up
so
again.
Bad. This is why it's so bad in that, because there was a lot of stuff that you could actually appreciate of this episode. You know, from the flashbacks to the war to a guest appearance by Clint Howard, who was on the original series, for God's sake.
He's been in like 5 series, 5 Star Trek series, right?
Yeah.
But like, I feel like I can't really build too much on what you guys had said, other than the parts that I enjoyed were basically just the flashback sequences. Like that incoming transport, they just can't keep up with all of these.
Could you
people
imagine
coming in?
Oh man, that would have been such a good
And Banga erasing the guy's pattern, very calmly just pushing the erase his pattern, because he knew that guy. Because he knew like there was more after, you know, if they didn't, then 80 people would die if he didn't kill it, you know.
Like all of that stuff was interesting, but all of the stuff that happened sort of present day on the ship with the hatred toward the Klingon and the terrible ending. Yeah, I agree with you guys 100%.
I can't watch this episode again.
But now for a palate cleanser.
Yes. So,
because if you want to see Mbega singing and dancing,
he's the only bass on this show. Although I think Pike might also sort of be that baritone bass range. Subspace Rhapsody, an accident with an experimental quantum probability field causes everyone on the Enterprise to break uncontrollably into song. But the real danger is that the field is expanding and beginning to impact other ships, allies, and enemies alike. What enemies? The Klingons aren't enemies. This is a silly thing that I just read. That being said, I'm going to start with shows. Go shows.
Okay, my absolute favorite episode of the season. And it's because I'm also like a musical guy. I love musicals. The Buffy musical episode.
You like musicals? Know, right? The person I met during musicals?
Yeah. The Buffy musical is like my favorite episode of Buffy ever. And I still listen to that soundtrack regularly. And this feels so much like that Buffy episode. It feels like it was put together so carefully as to not be overly corny, but just to be corny enough to just love it and just have a goofy smile on your face the whole time you're watching it. The songs are catchy. They're very well written. The reason that they're singing, they fit it into the canon and the lore, and that, you know, there's another dimension somewhere out there, another reality somewhere where people sing and dance all the time, and for some reason that reality is leaking into our reality, and we have to stop it, or else, you know, the whole universe is going to happen to everybody. And it makes me think that we got to see the Klingons singing, and we got to see Batel singing, but it was spreading out much further than that. So you got to imagine there were songs going on Vulcan. You know, the Gorn.
I don't think it was that far.
A few dance numbers.
It wasn't that far in the quadrant, but I wish I would.
Can you like? Yeah,
I think maybe I think there were probably Gorn though,
right? Because anybody who was sort of around that area, sort of spread out, would have been, singing and dancing
Now
and
I
doing
ask
like
you,
catchy numbers.
what genre would the Gorn be singing?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking the dinosaur kind of reptile kind of maybe something tribal, maybe dance music. I'm thinking that like electronica house, like just all like
That's the Klingons. Klingons are in the K-pop era, man. Keep thinking about that, but keep going on your.
But yeah, it was absolutely a joy to watch. It's funny how it's polarizing people online. People who are going, this is not Star Trek. This is ridiculous.
People
I can't believe
are
you would
bombing
do
this episode on IMDb, by the way.
Yeah.
There's 7,000 reviews, and normally an episode gets about 1,600.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah. So there are people that are not pleased with it. So you probably fall into one of two camps. You either really enjoyed it and had a fun time watching this episode, or you thought it was dumb and you were not interested in it at all. I've been listening to the soundtrack over and over again in my car, in my headphones.
You're currently listening to it right now?
Listening to it right now. But yeah, I can't say enough great things about this episode. I think the only thing that I felt like I and this is another nitpick. It's a nitpick. I love Uhura's song. I think it's one of the strongest songs in the episode. But when you listen carefully to it, it's all about her family dying in a shuttle accident.
Yep.
It just feels weird to listen to. Like it feels weird to belt out in your car. It feels weird because of that. But that's just a little nitpick. I think it's very well written, and the closing number of this, like the big finale at the end, is my favorite song. I think it's just so much fun to listen to.
Hawk.
So this was a very fun episode, but I do have a confession to make in that, and it's because remember like when we were doing the promos on our Strange New Pod for this, and Julian had mentioned like, I am a theater kid. Eric is a theater kid.
I'm sorry.
Hawk
I know I'm the one who said that to you. I'm the one who said that we're all theater kids. I felt
I know, and I was not a theater kid. I'm not even that big a fan of musicals, but this you cannot help but enjoy this episode, and that, and for the fact that it tried to apply a scientific explanation as to why this kind of genre existed in this episode, because it's like musicals themselves and that, we just take them for what they are,
Yeah.
People who just like, act out emotion and that in song and that, if we tried to apply any sense of reality to them, it wouldn't work. I know Schmigadoon is having a lot of fun playing.
Have you seen Schmigadoon?
I've seen a couple episodes.
It's so good.
It's great. I know Schmigadoon is having a lot of fun playing around with those, why is this happening? Why are we here? What is going on? Strange New Worlds found a way to do a musical episode, which kind of made sense to me. The only thing that really took me out of it was basically the Klingons and I, because like part of me was
shut your damn mouth.
I was expecting the Klingons to come in heavy on some Pirates of the Penzance, like kind of theme,
Okay, I'm fair with that.
They came in pure boy band.
I'm glad you didn't say opera because it's their dishonor. That's why they didn't sing in opera, and I don't think people are
sing Klingon opera. No, if they came in singing like some ditty out of Gilbert and Sullivan and that, like I could see why they'd be angry in that, but it would make sense. But instead, we got K-pop,
which again, singing and dancing happy. I can see why they would be upset.
Yeah, they were very upset.
Bruce Horak, amazing as the Klingon captain in this episode, and
love seeing that man.
Such a good singer. If you've never checked out his YouTube, he does covers on there. He has a band called something I can't remember right now. Oh my god, I can't remember. But I sent Hawk a cover that he did of a Tragically Hip song, and it's so good. And he did it on banjo. So damn. That being said, I love this musical. I love it so much. It's not as good as the Buffy musical, which is, top tier of the TV musicals. Same with the Scrubs episode. That's such a good musical episode. The music was written by Letters to Cleo, so it's interesting that some of the songs sound like Letters to Cleo's song. And if you're a fan of 10 Things I Hate About You, yeah, coincidence. 10 Things I Hate About You, they're the ones that did a bunch of the songs from that soundtrack as well. This amazing. This episode's amazing. I love it so much. I talked about it at length ad nauseum on Strange New Pod. I love that Cole Porter broke the universe. That makes sense in my head. I think the songs were really quite good. I think the fault in this is that because they couldn't sing with multiple people because they couldn't raise the threshold to, was it 144 or something, 188?
Yeah.
They couldn't sing with multiple people, and musicals are really about the ensemble and people singing with them. So it was a lot of solo introspective songs, which I don't mind per se. I just like ensemble numbers. I like hearing people sing together, and I like hearing opposing harmonies play off each other. They did the first song, Status Report, was phenomenal for that reason. Like when they start coming in and start layering on top of each other, I love that. The ending, We Are One, I think that was a great finale. I don't think it's as good as Status Report, but I think it's quite good. When they do the last sequence, when they're doing the kick line, and they're like where the crew of the Enterprise were possible, unstoppable, all that part. It felt like they were singing the Muppet theme song. So that's the one thing that sort of pulled me out of that. But I don't blame them. It's good. Uhura, Celia Gooding, phenomenal. Like
such a good singer.
Like again, but that song is about her trauma, which we've touched upon multiple times this season, which is unfortunate. That being said, she kicked that song like into gear. She was amazing. The fact that
Chapel's song was really good.
Chapel's song, I'm Ready, phenomenal.
Like she had the right kind of like sleazy kind of bar.
I don't say sleazy, but
but you know
Roxy
what I mean.
Heart.
Roxy Heart.
Yeah.
They that's the closest to Letters to Cleo song out of all of them. That felt like one of their songs already. I like that Spock's I'm the X played off of that as a reprise, a slower reprise, and I like Ethan Peck's voice more or less, even though, as we said on SMP, he had been touched by an angel, the auto-tune angel. I really liked that he was the person that started singing. That's what really drew me into the episode, and it really fit for me. Like, you expect Celia Gooding Harding to start singing because she's a Broadway star, right? But when Spock starts singing, you're just like, fuck. Shit's going down.
Everybody's going to be singing. Yeah.
Again, this is another episode where Pike's humor really, really shone. Like his reactions to everything, being like, what's the music coming from? And then, his fun little cute song with Battelle, the private conversation.
Private conversation, yeah.
That's a song that my eldest
and La'an walks over and turns off the comms in the middle of the song.
I mean, it makes sense. La'an also, like, she has her own album. There's a reason Christina Chong is a musician in real life. I was listening to that EP today when I was making my Daft Punk helmet. Like, it's not bad. What else? I'll just keep on going for the next 2 hours about this. Oh, again, I love that this season for all the special episodes, like the Lower Decks crossover and then this one, they did something special with the opening credits. So they did it fully a cappella, not Lower Decks theme, Strange New Worlds theme. And they did a phenomenal job. Like the charting is so good on this. I charted it because I was not bored, because I was really excited by it and I wanted to sing it one day. And it's good. Like this episode's amazing. And then again, Klingons singing and dancing. Just give it. Status Report is the most played song on Spotify with 242,000 plays. And I'm Ready is the second most played at 156,000 plays. Thank you, Haven, in the chat.
Wow. Those are some stats.
Also, math jokes in music. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is another Kirk episode. We got Kirk back for this one, which is I think his fourth appearance this season.
Third this season.
Okay.
And final. He had one more in the first season, so that was 4 total.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I like how he goes, I thought you guys had all prepared that until I started singing too.
He has a good voice.
There are little moments in this episode where it almost feels like the characters have more control over themselves than they're letting on. Like there's a moment where Spock looks up at the screen and sees that they're not quite at the right number at the very end of the episode. They're not quite at the right number, so he runs up and joins the dancing at the front of the of the bridge.
Yeah.
Just to increase the number a little bit more. Such a fun
All
episode.
system stable. All right, and we get to the end. Again, if you want to go over the IMDb and actually rate this properly, go do that, because there are like 5,000 or 6,000 people that have just bombed this episode.
Yeah, for no reason.
No reason, because they're angry. Oh man, the internet is so angry at this episode. I don't understand why. Anyway, it's a musical.
It's why we can't have nice things.
It's true. And I like that Strange New Worlds keeps on trying to do different things, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Also want more lore decks on them. Give them more lore decks. The finale just premiered last week, August 10th. Like Hawk said, 4 days ago. not more than that, as I can't do math. Hegemony. When the Enterprise investigates an attack on a colony at the edge of Federation space, Captain Pike and his crew face the return of a formidable enemy, the Gorn. Dun dun dun. Hawk, you're first this time. Yeah.
Wow. I love this finale, despite some people's objections that to it being a cliffhanger for a season that we might not see until 2025. It still makes me sad thinking about that.
At the earliest, 2025 now, as it's getting closer to the end of the year.
This was a great episode, and it brought in like the Gorn with a bang, and that's like they didn't even waste time. You had a cold open in that where you see like the idyllic little small town on an outer planet, and that is invaded by a mothership.
Oh, like Independence Day? You got the Independence Day ship coming in?
Yeah, just out of nowhere it comes in. It's so weird how the Enterprise feels so disadvantaged by everything in that. Not just like the Gorn and that and their strength, but also the fact that like a demarcation line prevents them from actually going down to the surface to help in force. The episode is just so it's like a zombie movie. It's like Aliens 1, 2, and 3. There's references to all those together. We get Montgomery Scott in this episode, and he is played amazingly by Martin Quinn, this a 29-year-old actor who's just kicking ass. And
brilliant.
I want him back. I want him back so bad. We get to see, the Gorn were introduced last season on that, but we never got to see like them in like adult form, and it's been controversial, because like adult form for Gorn, we've had like maybe 2 references over the years. We've had like Arena and TOS, and then the Enterprise episode where it was just like, very bad CGI. I gotta say it was just very bad. They looked awesome in this though. Seeing that tail come down in an exosuit. And try to kill Chapel and Spock. Like, it was crazy how tense this episode was. It was amazing the way it was like layered with them, trying to find a solution to knock out that field without having to cross the border.
Yeah,
and then
they were doing Star Trek problem solving.
Yeah,
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Trek problem solving. A little expanse physics thrown in there for good measure. And the fact that they left us on a cliffhanger, I'll say it rivals Best of Both Worlds for me.
Yep.
Chef's kiss. Shouse.
Yes, I love this episode too. I was kind of on the edge of my seat for the whole thing. When Scotty appeared, I was so excited. It has all of those elements that made me feel like, this, and I know this kind of phrase has been said a lot recently, but this is not your grandfather's Star Trek. And I know it's been said a lot with like Discovery and things like that, but watching them walk through this town or this colony, and the colony is just covered in blood, and there's guts and things pouring everywhere, and it just, you're watching this going, wow, this is not as clean as they used to make it in Next Generation. This is definitely a dark time for this group of people, and I loved it. Like, I was so excited. Yeah, I am Really upset that we're not going to get to see what happens for a long time. Hopefully, when we do get to see what happens, we're going to get 20 episodes of season 3. That'd be amazing.
Just to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as an apology. Yeah. And they should give that to us maybe early 2024.
Yeah.
Just as an apology. You know,
I wish.
You know, a man can wish.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really, really, really like this episode.
Yeah. How can I add to any of that? I can, because I like to talk. I love Captain Batel this episode. I want more of her. I love her so much.
She's so good.
She's so good, and I want more of her, and I'm glad they didn't kill her yet. I don't think they're going to, because they kept on telegraphing the whole thing, and they kept on talking about Hammer. So you can't keep comparing someone who died and then kill them, because that would feel shitty. What I want to see is her to get her arm cut off, because they kept on talking about zombie movies, and I want her to have a badass robot arm, or maybe she has a beep beep arm, right? Maybe. Who knows? Oh man, the adult Gorn, like Hawk was saying, was incredible, and to see them in a spacesuit trying to steal secrets out of the ship makes me just want to learn more about the Gorn, because they had always been shown as this like we had said earlier, or maybe that was off mic, that they were really shown as like aliens, like xenomorphs, but they're more like predators, where predators are smart but also kill, right? I love
strategize and
but it also compared them to bugs. Like, it talked about how the solar flares are what sort of triggered their hunting instinct.
Like the predators, they're sort of big locust type people, which is sort of what the predators are based on. I love that Sam Kirk gets to be smart in this episode instead of sort of being a joke, because he had been a joke. He's sort of a jokey character, right? He gets the shine, but this episode he really stepped up, and he's really started to, he's starting to seem like that scientist that will go away with his family to go investigate pancakes that fly.
Pancakes.
What else do I love? I love Scotty, man. Who expected that? And then to have the perfection of this episode, of him being in this episode. I love Simon Pegg's Scotty, and this is starting to feel like it might be better than it. Right? In the little bit that we've seen him do, he's written to perfection. He's acted to perfection. I love him so much.
He has to be portrayed as a miracle worker. He has to be portrayed as just brilliant and can solve any engineering problem right away. And he came across that way without coming across as too cocky.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, I just built it. I needed it, so I built it.
That's
creative.
That's why I love when he meets up with Pelia later, and she's like, "Oh, Scotty, my most brilliant student with the worst grades." And that's I
don't even think she failed a lot of people.
Well, Uno, maybe it might be the teacher in this. I like that she maybe inspires people to be better. I think that's what. I don't know, because we haven't gotten Paleo that much this season, so we don't know. What else is there to love? Like Hawk was saying, all the Alien. I love the Alien movies, so every time they referenced it, just the shots that they lifted from the Alien movie, the tail coming down, the space suit that Chapel has to get into, when Chapel lets the Gorn die from suffocation. Was such a boss-ass move instead of shooting it. Oh, my God.
She could have ended his misery, but she didn't.
No, she let him die. The shot of the saucer section flying and then burning up was gorgeous, only to be defeated by it hitting that building very shittily.
They really kind of crapped out.
They used their money properly, but that was an unfortunate part. The main introduction of Scotty, the trap that he set, was such a brilliant way to introduce him, and then him just sort of going off, talking about how he bait the trap instead of letting the people out of the trap. Very Scotty. Oh my God. I love that this episode ended with Pike not knowing what to do.
Just being overwhelmed.
Yeah. Like I said on Strangely Pod, the issue with Pike, and he's a wonderful captain, but he has this issue where he has to save everyone.
Mhm.
That's his main flaw. Like we touched upon this in the finale of last year too, where he wanted to
Yep.
save the ensigns before they get killed in the beep beep accident. And man, like the look Ensign Mount's acting is so good. He doesn't say anything, but the look in his eyes, like, and just him staring at everything and trying to figure out, and
and everybody's going orders,
and the sound
Mhm.
around him is like muted, so you know that it's overwhelming him. Oh, such a good episode.
Good.
It's a great episode. I think it's a good episode. Nothing revolutionary other than the gore and things, which I'm really excited about. They better, build off of that. Because I want to see I was saying this on the other podcast. I want to see gore and scientists, because I think that would be really neat.
They're hanging out with the Orion scientists.
Seeing the transporter, the green transporter, I was like, holy shit, the Gorns have transporters.
Yeah.
Never thought that was going to happen.
But what I think is cool about the Gorn too is that usually on Star Trek, the aliens that we see most of the time are like humanoid, right? We tend to see mostly humanoid aliens.
That was a Gene Roddenberry thing, though.
Exactly. He wanted you to be able to see into the eyes of the aliens. And throughout the series, they've tried to give you different types of creatures. I'm thinking the remember the Devil in the Dark, the Horda in and then they had some stuff in Voyager and then there was like the big space whales and space jellyfish and stuff. So they every now and then they would try to throw in some stuff that was a little bit different, but you never really got to see kind of like a predatory lizard like, would rip your head off with its jaws kind of alien.
Mm-hmm.
You never really got to see a lot of that. Everybody just seemed to be like flying ships and talking and shooting torpedoes at each other. But this was cool that this was like a genuinely terrifying enemy.
Mm-hmm. And something that we thought was more instinctual, but they seem smarter than we know. And that's awesome, because we don't know anything about the Gorn. We know they have weddings. Yep. That's about it.
Yeah, even what they thought they knew about the Gorn, they didn't know in that, because Leon had told them that they just fight, the babies just fight for dominance and that, but we didn't see that. We saw them working together down on the planet.
So it goes to show that La'an isn't really the expert that she thinks she is. There's stuff she doesn't even know. So it's, can't wait to see what happens with it.
Ah, man, this season. I don't mind the to be continued. I sent Hawk about a text about 15 minutes before the end. I was like, they're going to make me so angry in about 15 minutes, because I knew they were not going to wrap things up. And I knew it was going to be bad, and it did.
I know.
And I was like,
and then Julian posted on our thread about the cliffhanger, and he's like, "Eep," and I see this erase message, and I was like, too late.
All right, so let's talk about this season as a whole, because for me, I'm going to talk about my experiences. I think the season was generally pretty good. I don't think it's as good as season 1. I think season 1 is a perfect season, pretty much. I don't think I disliked anything from season 1. No, I didn't. I think this season had a lot of up and downs. I think the pacing was a little weird. I think having a really funny episode followed by a very serious one, followed by a really funny episode, and then the finale was such a weird misstep. I keep thinking about Buffy and where it was placed in the season. And especially the Buffy musical. That's the one I'm talking about. Because it was placed at around episode 7, which is the first third of the season. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of that musical episode was for information to go out to the Scooby Gang that would not have normally gone out. And that was that Buffy had died and they had pulled her out of heaven, right? Because they wanted her to come back into their lives. They thought they were
saving her from hell.
But they didn't. And that sort of springboard the last 2/3 of the season, especially with the Willow using too much magic and it overpowering her, and then et cetera. So that's why I think, I feel like they should have had the musical halfway through the season, and it sort of led to the last half. Or something like that, somewhere around there. I feel like they needed to space out these two very funny episodes. Like those old scientists could have either come later and the music gone earlier. There, I don't think episode 1 should have been episode 1. It was fun, but it's okay, I guess. I don't mind. I don't mind Ad Astra being the second, although it would have been better as the first one. I just like that it was resolved earlier. We had talked about it last year where we're like, maybe they're going to pull this out for a long period of time. I'm glad they got rid of the Una thing early. Overall, I think it was a fine second season. I think there are some hiccups. Again, we don't know anything about the engineer. And I really hope it's not because she's getting replaced by Scotty. I want them to work together. And I sort of want to see more Pelia because she's intriguing and we don't know anything about her. I want to see her work with Scotty. I like their dynamic. And I want
maybe it's her that helps Scotty to sort of refine some of his
to become the engineer he's going to be when she dies in episode 9 of next season. sorry. I'm going to go with shows. What do you think of this season?
I think I agree with you word for word. I like the first season better, but I still really enjoyed this one. Just as a side note here, Haven made a good point about Species 8472 that I forgot to mention.
Yep.
And they also were a terrifying species that, could be a real threat. So I agree with that 100%. But yeah, I have nothing more to add to that other than I am excited for season 3. I like Strange New Worlds is very quickly becoming right up there with my favorite Star Trek series. Like it's right up there. It's just so much fun to watch. The characters are so charming and interesting and I just want more and more of this show. Whereas with some other series they definitely had a lot of episodes. Like, Deep Space Nine would do like 27 episodes in a season, so they had lots of room to make mistakes. But I want more. I want longer seasons because if we're gonna have like a season, then we're gonna have to wait like a year to get the next season, and then wait like a year and a half get the next season after that. It's just too much. All these characters are gonna die of old age before we get to season 7.
Like again, like going off what you said about the shorter seasons. They can't make missteps, and they have this season, and that's that's unfortunate because there are going to be episodes I'm not going to watch again out of that. Yeah. I've rewatched all of season 1 multiple times, but this one I'm like I will skip episodes, unfortunately, or I will skip episodes for sure. Hawk,
I'll be brief because I'm turning into a pumpkin here, but I agree with everything you said. They're definitely not as strong as season 1, but what they did well, like they did really, really well. Like that crossover episode, like is something that should not have worked as well as it did, but was even better than I thought it would be. Secret MVP this year has been like Ethan Peck. Each episode, he's even if it's a bad episode in that, like Spock and his acting is still rings out in that, and it's like. And they have a way of incorporating humor into him, like I did not believe was possible. Not just in like like with the old scientist and that, with his like weird awkward smile towards Boimler, but in his certain little lines and that Subspace Rhapsody, when they started talking about parallel realities and how it's like maybe we'll turn into bunnies in one thing. I do not believe we will be bunnies.
Yep. Yeah.
He has a way of delivering comedic lines in a deadpan voice, which is just fantastic. So he's my MVP this year. Like I said, it's a good season, not as strong or as cohesive as season 1, but like I said, when it worked, it worked. Gangbusters.
Them teasing the Gorn War in episode 1 and then not touching it again until episode 10, that was mean. I also, you're right. This season was very Spock heavy. I don't like the pushing of the Spock Chapel thing. I know it's important. I'm going to air quote that because there is some tension between them in TOS. A lot of tension. But like to have it be a 4-5 episode arc in an episodic thing that's not really arc. I didn't really feel the relationship, to be honest. Like I knew it was there, but it didn't feel like they were in one. And then it feels like it should be more important than it. I think it's supposed to be more important than it feels like it is. I don't feel it. That's not to say Jess Bush did bad or Ethan Peck did bad. They're doing great with what they have, but what they have for the relationship is But I feel like there's a plan for that. That's the issue. Like I don't know if after we finally watch this season in 2030 or the next season in 2030 we'll see what happens. Like there was,
we'll get to watch it on our neural TVs,
our
that
neural
are built into our
implants.
brains.
Yes,
Yeah.
like Rutherford.
You just download the episode directly into your brain. You don't even have to watch it. You just know if you liked it or not.
Yeah, you got to watch out for the pirated ones. You don't want malware in your head.
That's true.
Do I want to see more legacy characters moving forward?
There's not too many left to come forward.
Well, yeah. I mean, McCoy is probably the biggest one still that we haven't.
I don't want to see him for a while.
He's got to be out there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't want. I want Mbenga to be there. Yeah. I don't want McCoy to show up and be like, because he ends up. It might be cool over.
I know, but it might be cool if McCoy just shows up like on another ship or something.
Yeah. I was saying,
or they visit a space station where McCoy is stationed or something.
I was saying that we should see a 10-year-old Chekhov, like just randomly. There's a random baby Chekhov, because he would be 10 at this point, because he's 5 years off, right? He's five. Yeah. He's 16 when he gets drafted, right?
Yeah.
That would be amazing, baby Chekhov. I feel like Sulu, like Hawk, you were saying. Sulu would be the same age as Uhura, so he would be an ensign.
Yeah,
right now.
Yeah,
that would be.
So we might run into him on a ship somewhere.
He's definitely a possibility for next season.
Oh my!
But I feel like it would be. I wonder if they're going to do this thing where they have the one new character introduced at the end of the previous season. They're the one that shows up for more episodes that season. The next season.
That's true.
And then we'll get like Sulu or someone at the end of season 3, and then they'll sort of be the springboard for season 4 in 2040. Just keep on pushing it.
That's after the real Gorn Wars.
Oh my god. Any final thoughts on Strange New Worlds or where we're gonna go from here moving forward, Mr. Pumpkin?
Going forward, who knows? I don't know. Like, could we see like a full-on like Gorn war like in the next season?
Like a Dominion war kind of thing?
Yes.
And maybe it's like being the overarching thread throughout the season. They'll still do their episodic nature of it and that, but the thread of it is always going to be following them. Because, like you said, we didn't see barely any until the finale.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably what's going to happen going forward in season 3.
It would be amazing because Enterprise was episodic, but they had that Time War still lingering over everything, right? Do that with the Gorn War. Fuck yes, shows.
Just introducing more characters. I want to see more Ortegas. I want her to have more of an opportunity to appear on things.
I want her to not just fly. I want her to sing.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, she got to go on her first away mission finally with the crew. So maybe she'll get to do more of those. I don't want them to screw up the formula that they have, for the most part, done fairly well with. I worry that if they go too deep into like a Dominion War storyline, then they start to lose maybe some of that episodic stuff, like what happened with Enterprise and the Xindi, where it was that third season got a little too Xindi heavy, and I don't think it got the ratings they were looking for.
Not season 3.
And but as long as they can keep it fun, as long as they can keep innovating, let us see lots of those characters doing stuff that we love seeing them do. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to continue to be good.
I just want them to keep pushing the envelope. Like the first season had we had a Quality of Mercy. We had the Elysium Kingdom. This season we had the musical and those old scientists, man, surprised me in season 3 again. Because those were just, that's all I want. I want to be surprised and be happy about it. And
do a Western next year.
Oh my God.
We've done lots of Star Trek Westerns, but let's do it.
Yeah, do it again.
I'm on board.
I Paramount, pay your writers, man. Pay your actors.
Yes.
Yep.
Look at how good this is. Like this, it's incredible. And then I know this is in the horizon, but VFX artists are trying to unionize. Fuck, man. Don't make those people crunch. Pay them what they're worth. All these people do so much, and like executives getting all this money is just, it's infuriating. It's infuriating.
What did they even do?
No one make like,
I remember
they buy boats. They buy boats and houses.
So many boats.
Do you guys ever see that old Norm Macdonald interview after he got fired from Saturday Night Live?
No, I don't.
Dave was asking what happened in that, and he's like, "Well, you know those guys, the ones in the suits, the ones that are always hanging out by the water cooler, and that you don't quite know what they do in that." And he's like, "Yeah, we have them here and that." And he's like, "Yeah, well, apparently what they do is fire me."
Oh my God.
I love Norm Macdonald. He goes, yeah, they didn't want me to keep my job, and I did, and we had an impasse.
love man. Anyway. That was awesome. We talked about Strange New World season 2, and that was fun. It's great talking about things. Like I know Hawk, I know Shows. You guys are really big Star Trek fans. I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm a big Star Wars fan. I love that when artists and writers and creatives get to combine their love, and we've talked to a lot of these people that worked on these shows, and for them to show their love and to make something of this quality is amazing. It's amazing. But that's it for us talking about Strange New World season 2. We will be back in a couple weeks. I don't know if we're gonna do one in 2 weeks because Fan Expo is gonna be right around the corner and might be a little rough. And I might lose my voice by that point, right? Because I'll be partying with Hawk and maybe Shows over there. Yeah.
I'll be at Fan Expo.
I'll talk to you guys about something that's happening on Saturday night. Anyway, for Hawk, for Shows, for me, this is Geeks with Kids. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. Thank you for coming. We'll see you. Bye.
Bye.
So you can send us an email at podcast@geekswithkids.ca. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/geekswithkids. Follow us on Twitter at geekswithkidscn. Check out our pics on Instagram at geekswithkids. And you can find all of this good stuff on our website at www.geekswithkids.ca. So if you like what you hear, why don't you hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. This podcast can be found on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and your favorite podcasting app. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.